It was the night before Christmas, and all in the house, not an engineer was stirring because some guy automated their jobs using Excel. Welcome to another episode of Red Talks, and in the Christmas miracle theme, we're going to have a little conversation and a demonstration about how really the beauty of REST is that it's not dependent on the tool and the investment and the project behind it to use it. You can run it from command lines. You can use little Unix tools like curl. You can use Postman, a great little standalone REST client, and something I didn't know only a few months ago, you can even use Excel. So with me, I have a special guest. I have Anthony, who is the creator of, I'm not sure what to call this. Anthony, tell us a bit about yourself, and then we'll jump into what you've created, this awesome tool.
Great. Thanks, Nathan. My name is Anthony Gerace, engineer here at F5 for, I think it's going on 14 years. Was started in professional services as a consultant, later as a consulting manager, and now SE here at F5.
And you're out there in Boston.
That is correct.
Did you see that dog walk past?
Yes.
That's not my dog. I don't know where that dog came from. So you're out in Boston, where it's really cold right now. That's where you've always been? You grew up out that area? That's like
I actually grew up outside of Buffalo.
Ah, okay, yeah. Excellent. Okay. Before we started this call, I was here whining about how cold it was, and then Anthony pointed out he's in Boston, so I'll stop whining about that. So let's move on to what it is you've created. And I'll be honest, when I first heard through a mutual friend that you'd built this in Excel, I had two emotions simultaneously. One was like, that's cool, the guy did it in Excel. And then the other part of me was like, wait, he did it in Excel? And I'm really intrigued. How'd you start there?
So as being, I guess the impetus for this was really having to do proof of concepts with clients. And I've had a couple of clients where their engineering team is located in India, as an example. So trying to do a proof of concept and the initial configuration deployment for a device, not only do you have the delay in WebEx or whatever media you use, but you also have to explain certain things and how to do it. The idea was if I could give you a spreadsheet that was somewhat self-explanatory and then give you a button, just click it to deploy it, that seemed like it would cut down the time to at least get the lower level platform configuration out of the way and then be able to move on to higher level tasks.
That is an excellent reason to do what you've done, because you've abstracted a lot of that initial domain-specific knowledge requirements to get past those first steps, the order that you should do things in, the nuances of each command. You've taken that initial learning curve out the way so you can get straight into the project versus a very long ramp-up time. So yeah, that totally makes sense. I can see why you've gone down that path. And I take it your choice of tool was based on the fact that you were already pretty good with VBA.
No.
You had to learn.
I was not.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Good challenge. Good challenge.
It was a challenge, and thank God for Google.
Yes. I bet. So, you're actually able to show us a bit of a demonstration of how this works. I mean, do you want to just share your spreadsheet there? Now, it's interesting that it's a spreadsheet because I think a lot of people in automation have had at least one conversation with a team where they were managing their address space in a spreadsheet, and it was all about trying to get off of the spreadsheet. So it's kind of funny that we've gone full circle and we're now back to a spreadsheet, but it's not just for storing IPs, it's actually for doing the implementation.
Yeah, so the whole idea was I tried to come up with something that I assumed everybody would have. And 90% of the people I work with, they do have Excel. The one limiting factor that I found in this is that it works for Excel for Windows. It does not work on Excel on a Mac. And
That's a little annoying, but yeah,
it is.
that would be why you're running it in a virtual machine right now. I can see that.
So I am running in a virtual because I do have a Mac. It uses the Win HTTP request module, which does not exist on the Mac.
Okay. That's a shame. Well, walk us through anyway. I mean, it's good you're able to run this in a virtual machine. So, yeah, just take us through those. What are those fields that you've got going there, and what's the process of what happens once you filled them in?
So, a couple of things here. The customer field, this attribute doesn't really have any specific meaning, except for I'm going to use it later on in the configuration to build some custom profiles and monitor templates.
Okay.
So not only does it do the platform and network configuration, it also goes into the point where it will create some base HTTP profile, TCP profiles, UDP FastL4, and a couple monitor templates. Specifically HTTPS head, an HTTP head, and a TCP monitor. The host name, it will set the host name for the device. So the assumption is that you have already gone through and you booted up the device, be it a physical device or a virtual. Unfortunately, this does not work on a VCMP guest. And that's because the VLANs are created at the host level and then promoted into the guest. But this could be easily modified. Maybe a side project would be to create a version of this to do that component of it. The other side is that what I'm showing today will handle a single standalone device. It does not do a redundant configuration.
So just for those unfamiliar, VCMP, correct me if I'm wrong there, Anthony, is that's the virtualization on F5 technologies where you can carve up a platform into multiple virtual instances of big IPs on one physical.
Correct.
Okay. So you've tested this with your traditional, either a physical or virtual edition, but without the VCMP.
Correct. So you put in the registration key. If the device hasn't been activated, we could activate the license and do that at that time. The username and password, I have it defaulted to what the default password is, which is, admin. It generates a base64 encoded header to use to authorize the subsequent requests. The management address, because without that, we don't know how to get to the device. The time zone currently set, I have 3 options currently, which is New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. We could expand that. The DNS resolver and NTP server. If I had a remote syslog, I could enter that as well.
Just before you go to the next table there, I noticed you had an option for has internet access. So if you set it up so that it will auto license if it could do it itself.
Correct.
Or manually license if it cannot reach the licensing server on its own.
So if you choose no here and you were to click activate, it will go out to the device, it will generate the dossier, and it will copy it to your clipboard.
That's cool. You've thought of everything here, haven't you? You've tested this a few times, I can tell.
Yeah. Yes. So so moving on, it will create 3 VLANs. Here I have it defaulted to external, internal, and DB, but it could be, you can have a full name external. It could be VLAN 25, whatever is allowable name for the VLANs. I use the default tags. You can change the tags if you want. So this could easily be VLAN 4, VLAN 3, and VLAN 200. Based on what I have on my, we're going to connect to a virtual edition. which is run on an ESX I host. So my external VLAN is 1.2. I don't have it defaulted, so there's no pull down, because the different types of devices, you could have different interfaces. So I figured I would just allow you to enter that. Then based on whatever VLAN name, it gets populated down to the self IPs. And then you enter the IP in CIDR notation. It will then give you the ability to change the allow services settings. So do we allow management access on these IP addresses?
Nice.
By
Nice.
default, we should say no, so none. And then I can create one default route, and if you fill this field in, it would create a secondary static route. If I didn't like my answers, or if I wanted to redo it, I could click reset. It will clear those fields so I can re-enter it. If I'm ready to deploy it, I click deploy configuration. And then I also added a third option, which is load the default config. So basically, whatever device you're connecting to, it will reset the configuration to factory defaults.
So at the end of a project, you can just restore that device back into the pool of available big IPs to configure.
Right. Or if you're in a continuous delivery configuration where you needed to test some other configuration, you reset it to factory defaults. You can then come through this config again and change the IP addressing to do some other test and deploy it.
That's awesome. So what first question that comes to mind, I mean, you've done this a few times, build up devices, obviously, for demonstrations or projects or proof of concepts. I mean, how long does it take to type all of that in, for example, on the command line interface? Like what kind of times?
If I was going to build this for a customer, doing it from the command line, probably, I would probably say 30 to 60 minutes.
And that's someone who's done it many, many times versus someone who might have to look things up.
Yeah.
We're talking more like a day if you're learning how that process works. I mean, this might be the first time you've seen the technology.
I mean, if you're, think of it from the proof of concept position, I'm walking somebody through this. So I ask them, hey, I now need your, what's the management address? Oh, here it is. Okay, now we need to figure out what VLANs we need. Oh, they come up with that information. There's 15 minutes.
That's brilliant. That's really cool. Is it possible? I don't want to push beyond the laws of physics here. How are you able to show us some of the VBA in the background here that's generating all of this? Is it easy to get to?
Sure. So here, for each button, there's different subroutines. So here's an example of the load default configuration. So the first thing we check to make sure that there is a management address here, and then it creates the object with the win HTTP request.
Ah, that's important, because if you didn't specify the management address and you just did a reset,
it's not going
to know where it went. Yeah, that's a good point.
And then I do prompt to make sure that you really do want to reset the configuration. And if you do answer yes, we send it with the request body, which I pulled from.
You really want to do this button comes up.
I'm sorry?
You've even got the "Do you want to really do this" button coming up before it does it.
And then, so basically the deploy is done. Well, here's not to scroll like a million lines, but here's the deploy configuration. So I basically walk, the more I did this, the more I learned. Originally, I created an array and said, here, look at these just fields. And then it was like, oh, well, I can do something like this. And then little did I know I could create a list and arrange and say, here, go from here to here. So, I mean, I did learn a lot of VBA, which...
Nice. And then I can see what I should do. Sorry, what was that?
I said, I know everybody's clamoring to learn VBA. I know it's now one of the top or hottest programming language of 2017.
I'll be honest, I do read the Stack Overflow developer survey results every year, and I don't know that I saw VBA on there the results for the last many years. It's not quite up there with JavaScript or Python, is it?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you're basically, what it's doing is it's taking all those values, it's building a JSON payload that's formatted correctly to send.
So actually, I didn't have it build the JSON in VBA. That's actually done in the spreadsheet on this Rest tab. So every one of these commands has an entry here. So like to disable the GUI setup, the first thing I do, the method is a patch. I give it the URL, which is, as you can see, is pulled from the first sheet, the management IP address. I build the URI, and then the JSON payload.
This is awesome.
Thanks.
In fact, I think I might learn how to fix some of my spreadsheets just for my own expense reports based on what you've done in there. But it's also great for mapping out for people, because I believe you said you were going to share this, maybe throw this out on GitHub.
Yes.
For people. So that's great, because I mean, even for people who just want to know how to do the onboarding you did, they can go to that REST tab and actually see, oh, I need to do a post, and this is what I need to send to the post. So people can even leverage your work on that onboarding process you've written, the device onboarding, and actually take that into another tool. Maybe dump that into Postman or even use curl. But it's the same commands they can grab out of your spreadsheet. I mean, that's the beauty of how you add these extra tabs, right?
Is that I did add the TMSH commands, so you could then come over to the TMSH tab and you'll see the exact commands that you would need to run to do that.
And it's filled these in automatically, hasn't it? They're the actual ones for this deployment.
So let's take a look at the DNS resolver. It says it's on 1.1. If I come over here and I make a change, let's say it's on 0.100. Come over, you'll see that it's now changed to 100.
And I can't help noticing there was a tab in there for curl as well.
There is. So haven't gone through and I'll be perfectly honest, I haven't completely gone through and validated each of my commands on the curl tab. But if you don't have access another way, you could utilize everything here. And you'll see that you have the ability, here's creating the DNS or setting the DNS resolver, NTP. And then if you remember, I talked about the base monitors and profiles.
Yep.
You'll see right here, here's creating an HTTP profile, the client SSL and server SSL, one connect. And then other things I do down here would be to create a UCS file and a single config file as well.
Anthony, this is fantastic. I don't think I was overreaching at all when I said at the start that this was the Christmas Miracle Edition, because if you'd told me beforehand this is what you were going to show me, I may have just laughed. This is a brilliant example, though, as we discussed right at the very beginning, that's the beauty about REST, is that if everyone's done a good implementation of REST, we're not having to learn and maintain expertise across many different CLIs and how they work and how they're implemented. I mean, yes, we do still have to understand like the JSON payloads to send along, but what it at least frees up if everyone's using REST is that we can have a common tool set and then just provide that translation in the tool set, versus these guys want it to be via Telnet, they want SSH, these people want it, like we're not being forced to manage like many different tools. We can run everything. In your case, we could just add more and more technologies that have REST APIs to your spreadsheet. Or if we were to take what you've done and go to Postman, we can just add more and more in Postman. But the key to getting all that into the one tool is just the support for REST generally across the board.
Right. The nice thing is I could take these 3 fields out of the REST API tab and plug them directly into Postman. So I could test something, or if I needed to validate, or if that's what a customer uses, I can take it very quickly and go directly to Postman and say, okay, here's something you can utilize. Or
Anthony, this is awesome. Thanks for your time, like the sharing. This you're gonna put this on GitHub, so once you do, send me the link and I'll update the article that's gonna host this video, and so people can go find it and start looking at it themselves. Maybe even request or add some functionality and share that for the greater good.
Will do. Great.
Cool.
Thank you for having me today.
Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. And ladies and gentlemen, this was the Christmas special edition of Red Talks. You've been listening to Nathan Pierce, that's me, and Anthony, that's the other guy. Say goodbye, Anthony.
Thank you.
Awesome.